It's time again for another Smashing Those Small Paper Pads collaboration share. Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome. This time it's not just a project share. I'm actually going to kind of try to do a shorter process video with you on how I am smashing this small pad. I chose the 6x6 God Bless America from Carta Bella, and that's the pad I'm going to use. I also had the coordinating ephemera pack as well, and I'm going to try and use those as well. So I've already gone through, there's 24 sheets, and 2 of those sheets were cut apart. So I've already gone through and cut up the cut aparts, and I'm going to work on using those. And then these are the other non-cut apart pages that I'm going to try and use. So every year I do try to make at least one batch, if not more, of thank you cards for veterans or for soldiers. So I have pulled out, to make this quick, I have pulled out 3 of Call Me Crafty Al's sheetload of card sketches that were for 6x6 paper, and I tried to focus on the ones that would use the whole sheet so I wasn't left with a bunch of like random scraps. So each one of these will leave a little scrap that I can use on the inside of the card, but it's not going to leave me. It should, once I use something on the inside of the cards, that should use up the whole sheet. So I have 3 different ones. I have November of 2021, August of 2020, and June of 2021. So November and August both use 6 sheets each. So that's 12. And then June of 2021 uses 4. So I figured that's 16 sheets. I have 22 sheets left, so I will pick one of these and do 2 rounds of, and that should be 22 sheets, and use the pad. So that was kind of my pre-planning for this, and so then I thought I'd kind of share a quick process with you of how I get everything cut down, put it together, and use ephemera on the cards. So this will be sped up, and I may not show every single step, but I'll kind of show you, kind of take you along part of the way. This is a collaboration that I'm doing with Crafting and Relaxing, Sarah, she's Crafting and Relaxing here on YouTube, and Kathy, who is Stampin' Cat over on Instagram. And each month we pick a pad smaller than 12 by 12 and work on using it up. And since it's just the 3 of us that are doing this, we do have a little more freedom in length of the video. Since there's not a ton of people, you know, we're not trying to keep it short so that you have time to watch everybody else. I'm going to take you along on my process, and we'll get these cards made up and this pad used. The first thing that I do is just go through and cut down all the card pieces for each of the sheetload sketches. I started with the August 2020 sketch and worked through those 6 patterns and just cut them down into all the pieces. The nice thing about the sheetload is she does give you the cut list, so cutting is pretty quick and easy. So then I'm moving on to the June 2021 sketch and cutting pieces, and then I end on the November 2021. And I do cut 2 of the November 2021, but I'm only going to show you once because it's just cutting. And this is sped up pretty quickly because I just kind of did it in a production line fashion, got everything cut, and then I'm going to get everything assembled. So pretty quick and easy and self-explanatory at this point. So now that all of my pieces are cut, I get to start assembling. So going back to the August 2020 sheet load, I'm applying my ATG onto the back of all these strips first. Again, still working in that kind of assembly line production where I get everything, each different piece adhered like kind of at the same time. I just work on one piece at a time. And I did try to make sure that I had most of my matting cardstocks were blue or were red, I believe. But I did try to make sure that I had some blue ones there were some patterns that were predominantly red, and I didn't want to back them on the red because they were not the same color of red, where the blue matched a little bit better. So that is what I'm going through here. And then I apply my card mats to the card bases, and all of these are A2 size cards. And then I'm just going to take all of those strips, layered strips that I assembled earlier, and add those to my card. And using my ATG for me is really quick because depending on the size of the piece that I'm working on, I can go through and add ATG to the back of all those pieces before I put my gun down, and then just get them all adhered. Like, it's even quicker for me. So especially if you are mass producing cards, that's kind of something to think about. And I do take time to try and make sure that the patterns that I put together are not the same type of background. So I don't want to do like a white pattern on a white pattern. You know, I do try and mix and match that up. Here I'm just going through all of the cut aparts because I figured that would be a good embellishment to use on the front of these cards. And I just take the strips that the sketch called for and I add those underneath, like just a kind of overlapping the cut apart just a little bit so that it sticks out. And then I also do go through and add some cardstock to the far right side, just since I do have 2 layers of pattern paper and cardstock together that might cause it to dip. So one thing, I followed the sheet loads pretty closely until it got time for embellishing, and then I just kind of worked with what I had. I used all of the cut aparts that I could, other than the ones that specifically mentioned like 4th of July or like any 4th of July terms. But anything that was just patriotic, I went ahead and used. And I'm not adding any sentiments on the inside just because I'm going to be writing a thank you message on these myself before I send them off to Cards for Soldiers. So going to finish up adding the cut aparts on these last 2 cards, and then I will just be adding some bits on the inside to use up the last little strips that I have. So now I'm working on the June 2021 sketch, and again getting all of my patterned pieces matted with the cardstock, just trying to make sure I avoid putting red on red. And then once I get all of these put together, I can work on assembling my cards. And for this batch of cards, I tried to use ephemera from that ephemera pack that I had that worked with the pad. So here on these strips, I'm cutting at an angle on the center part just so that I know. There's been times before where I've cut like just straight up and down, but it's not really a straight cut, and then things get moved around and I can't remember, or it's really hard to tell which was the truly straight cut end, if that makes any sense. So for me, if I know I am cutting up a strip because I'm going to spread it out across something and cover up that split, then I usually cut it at an angle so that I know for sure what part goes like in the center that's going to get covered. Hopefully that made sense. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just applying those on the cardstock strips that were called for. And then you're not going to see the whole process, but I am going to come in and add some scrap paper to the backside of these strips, just so that they're not, again, they overlap 2 layers there in the middle, and I didn't want them to droop a lot, so I will come in and add some scrap cardstock or pattern paper on the back of those just for that. So I think I show you the first one and then I skip forward, so you don't have to watch me trim and glue. So anyway, adding these pattern paper pieces to my card bases again, and here we go with the strips, and I'm going to make sure that when I'm putting them on the card bases that, again, I'm paying attention to the patterns that I am using together. So here I think I'm showing you one more and then I just skip forward. Oh, the power of video. So now I get to add these to my card fronts, and again I am adding ATG on the back of them, and then we'll add them to the card in batches. I did have a few of the cut aparts that I thought would work, and so I went ahead and am trying to use those up, adding some foam tape to the back. Just since these cards aren't going to be mailed, I don't have to worry about thickness. Like there's nothing, I don't have to worry about postage. These are going to be grouped together, included in a box that's sent to Cards for Soldiers, and then they're going to be grouped together in a different way and sent off to military troops. So I can actually use some dimension. I don't use dimension very often, but I did here for some reason. It just seemed right just to give the cut parts just a little something extra. So use up those last few cut parts, and then I'm going to transition over to the ephemera pack and try and use those. And again, I'm avoiding anything with specific mention of July 4th type phrases. So here we go on my final sketch. This one is the November 2021 sketch. And again, going through and adding adhesive to the back of the pieces. And this is going to be the center of the card. There's a vertical strip that goes on the card, and then this goes kind of in the center of that. So I've got a couple different layers that I need to adhere together on this one. So I will do those in batches. And with this particular piece, I'm making sure that I have the same, like for the top and bottom. So once I go through and get all of these adhered, then I can add these to my card. And this is one where I tried to apply it to my card or to my card mat before putting it on the card, and then realized that I needed to actually put all of those card mats on the cards first, because this strip is longer than the card mat, if that makes sense. So I think you'll see me try to adhere one of these strips, and then I have to pause for a second and put that card mat on the card before I can adhere the strip. So just a note, if you're using the November 2021 sheetload of card sketch, just a tip for you. And then on this one, I'm trying to use up the last bits of ephemera with the sketch, and I'm only doing, I ended up cutting 2 batches of this particular card sketch because I needed an extra 6 cards to help me use up the rest of my paper. So I did 2 of this particular sketch, but I'm only going to show you one because I was kind of at the tail end of the ephemera pack and really struggling to find things that would work for ephemera. I was lazy, didn't want to have to pull out other stamps or ephemera. I was really just trying to get this whole collection used up and try and keep it as simple and quick as possible, since that's why I started with the sketches in the first place. So I really wanted to use up that ephemera, and so I struggled to make that work. So I did not share that part with you guys, but you will see those cards at the end. So I'm just going to finish assembling these cards, and then we'll jump back with you at the end and show you all of the finished projects. Okay, so I have finished my cards. I have, of this November 2021 sketch, I did a total of 12 with this sketch. I made one set with you on camera, and then I did the second set off camera since it was the same thing, and I was running out of ephemera, so I was having to get creative. So there's 12 August 2020 sketch. I made 6 more cards, and this one I used the majority of the cut-aparts that came from the pad. And then June 2021, I got 8 cards from this one. So a total of 26 cards that I made using the 3 sheetload of card sketches. I used all 24 sheets of the paper. All that I have left is these bits, and most of these were like the top of the pad, you know, that had the hole that was cut off. So pretty good. And then I do have some of the ephemera left. I saved the ones that specifically said like Happy Birthday America or July 4th, just because these were not necessarily July 4th cards. These were just red, white, and blue kind of generic cards that I can use as thank yous. So I'm going to save the July 4th for scrapbook pages. So that is my small pad smashed for this month. Please be sure to check out Kathy and Sarah's links below to see what they used this month and what they made. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick process. Sheet loads made it super quick to go through. So if you are needing to make a bunch of cards in a short amount of time, I highly recommend Alicia's sheet loads. I will have Comic Crafty Al's channel linked in the description box below as well, where you can go and find out how you can get the sheet loads if you don't already subscribe to her channel. But thank you guys so very much for your time today, and hope you all have a very crafty day.